looking at the Hangouts, not on the video feed. Okay, it's 6:30, so I'm going to start the show. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Astro Imaging channel. Um, we've been trying very hard to stream this with Streamlabs. We've got two pieces of software that one of them is dying on us and the other one has died on us, and we seem to have worked our way around to one of them. Google's Hangout officially ended August 1st, or no, Google's Hangout still continuing. The streaming through Google Hangouts to the web has ended. And so we had to get a new piece of software, and Tolga did a great job of figuring out how to use that piece of software, and that's what's bringing us to you tonight. We are also worried about the fact that Google is cutting off support of Hangouts, and so we won't be able to use Hangouts. However, we have figured out a way to use the conventional Hangouts, the ones that weren't related to YouTube, um, to meet in the room and to get our presenters together and all that other stuff so that we can do what we're supposed to be doing. So that's where we are. We're here right now and we're ready to do a show. And we're going to have Hamza Touhami back today. And he's going to be telling us about how to get set up in a night of imaging, how to gather images and things like that using Prism software. He's been here before and he'll come back again in another 6 weeks or so to show us some even more stuff about his software. But I hope you do enjoy the show. In the meantime, I'm going to try to share my screen here for you and show you a few things that we need to show you. So let me go down here. Oh, let me get back on sharing the screen here first. Hang on for a second. We have the software that we're using now shares a screen in a different way than we used to share it. Okay, so now we're sharing the screen correct, Tolga? And I go to my PowerPoint here. No, I don't want to go to my PowerPoint today. Which slide do I want? This is the workshop that's coming up in about 2 weeks, which means that if you have been processing this, please get it on the website and upload it. It usually takes me a day or two before I can find it on the website and upload it because I'm doing other things and it doesn't do it automatically anymore. If you go to our website, which you've seen before, you go over to workshop, you will now find about 8 or so different presentations of the same data. And that's one of the things that's interesting me because it seems like everybody decided to stick with the same presentation when there were other ways to crop and things like that. But that we'll talk about that. So if you go to our website and you can click on this link, it says Alex McConaughey M13 data, and it will call up a big data file that you can download and process to your heart's content however you want and get out of it what you want to get out. And then you come down to the bottom here and you can upload that picture and it'll become part of the samples. And it's always amazed me how different people can get different interpretations of the same piece of data. Okay. Also, be aware that next week, Richard Wright will be here. We were just talking to Richard before the show actually started, and he's all ready to come on, tell us about developments in the SkyX. And then Terry Hancock's coming up after the processing workshop to tell us about the Grand Mesa Observatory and take us on a virtual tour for remote astroimaging. So we've got a lot of good things coming up for you. I don't know that if I made this point last time, but remember AIC is coming up. AIC is the Advanced Imaging Conference in San Jose, California, and we will all be at or on the way home from San Jose on the weekend of Sunday, November 17th. So we won't be able to be here with you. So I just wanted to tell you we're going to be taking some time off then. At any rate, that's the show that's our plan for right now. And let me get out of here and out of here and stop sharing my screen. And Hamza, are you ready to take over?
Yes, sir.
Okay, go ahead and take over, folks.
Hello again. My name is Hamza Touhami of Hyperion Astronomy. I'm here today for a second session to speak to you about Prism version 10. The last session we did an overall presentation on the capabilities and so on. And today I wanted to come back and speak to you about some more detailed data about setting up, planning, and so on. So I wanted to break this down into small steps, just like somebody that just opened Prism for the first time. Now, Alex, you see my mouse, right?
Yes, I see your mouse. Your mouse is
Okay,
good.
excellent. So one of the first things that you need to set up in Prism is obviously the sky chart to know where you're at, what your skies look like. So very easy. Let's set it up real quick. So we're gonna go to settings, default observance site, and for me, I'm in Phoenix, so we can choose USA and any cities around the world. That is, you can have France, USA, world observatories. There are a list of them, just in case you happen to be camping next to one or you live next to one. Or you can add an IAU site if you have the number. So for me, we'll do USA. We're going to type Phoenix here. We're going to find it. And it says Phoenix, Arizona, USA, 33 and 112, and altitude of 0. So we'll select this as the default. So Prism wants us to be sure that we're setting up Phoenix, Arizona as a default location. We say yes. Press OK. And it will ask you to update the sky chart, but since it is already set up to Phoenix, as you can see by my mouse right here, it's set up to Phoenix, Arizona, and these are my local skies at the time. So one of the next things to set up and for ease of use is, what does your equipment look like? What does your field of view look like? So that's very easy. We'll head to the settings here. If you see these two gears, and you go into the settings. And after this, we had the CCD and telescope tab. For myself, I have an STL 11000 or any 11000 chip, including the Moravian 11000, the Attic 11000, and so on. So you set up your camera here. You activate the field of view here, and you select your camera. And there are a lot of cameras in here, and we do update this frequently. So it's an STL 11000. Click on it, and you can set up the orientation of your CCD. Mine is 92 degrees, as you can see here. And then your focal length. Mine is roughly 1670 millimeters, right there. And if you want a second CCD, for example, you could do that if you have two telescopes and you want to set them both so you can see how the target would fit in your field of view. You can enable this here, and then you can input the information, the width in millimeters of your chip, the height, and we offer facilities to help you figure that one out. For example, if you press on these plus signs, it'll ask you how many pixels do you have in the width and what's your pixel size, and Prism will figure out the rest. So let's say 25 millimeters, and let's say 17 millimeters here. And here we'll put a focal length of 530, just like the FSQ 106 that we have. And you can offset these fields of view if you wish in arc minutes and RA and DEC. So let's press OK. And here's our field of view right in the middle. So we'll go ahead and zoom on it to see what it looks like. So I'm going to press this button in the middle, which is the zoom function. I'm going to draw a square around the target. And these are fields of view that you can see right here. So the middle one is the big 16-inch Newtonian that I use with an STL 11000. And the big field of view is a secondary field of view we just input right now. So the sky chart has a lot of catalogs in it, and I do mean a lot. Let's do a little test. So we'll go back to the settings. we're going to go to Deep Sky, the tab right here. And these are all the catalogs you have and you can activate for Deep Sky objects. Right now I have Messier, NGC, IC, MGC, UGC, some dark nebulae. Let's enable the bright nebulae. VDBs, ARPs, this is a really, really cool site if you have a narrow field of view. These are peculiar galaxies and really, really, really great galaxies to image. And PGC here. So well, let's press OK. Now all these green rectangles and squares are bright nebulae. So let's go ahead and zoom on this area in the Milky Way. And by the way, this is the Milky Way. Let me show you again. The Milky Way is this clouded area here, as you can see. So let's zoom on this area here. So something that I was asked last time is, do we see nebulae contours? Well, we do, yes. Let me deactivate these to give you a better view. So all these you see here are nebulae, and this is the North American Nebula, I believe. Yes, NGC 7000 right there. Just for fun, I activated the exoplanets, and those are all these purple targets all around.
Hamza?
Yeah.
You know how to use your Windows multiplier, your magnifying glass. Some of the things you're showing us, granted, we can't always see all the real fine detail of some of these things, but some of these things it's critical that we do see. And your screen resolution is such that we can't see some of the details. So can you magnify some of that?
I can zoom in on some of these. Let's zoom in. Good point.
There we go.
Oh,
Thank you.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So this is one of the nebulae that I was talking about, and this is IC 1396 right here. Let me find some other, and then I'll show you the exoplanets. I'm actually going to show you the NGC 7000 I was just referring to, and this is the North American Nebula here. As you can recognize it by its shape. Is this visible enough, Alex? Or Tolga or Eric?
I can see the shapes. It's just like the text is I mean, I can see it, but people with slower internet connections are probably having a hard time seeing the text.
I see it too. I'm sorry, go back to? That right here.
If you click the start button and type in magnifier, then it'll open up. You can open up the app to put it will zoom in parts of the screen wherever you point it.
Okay, but this.
Yeah, perfect.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, and then you can just point it wherever, or you can kind of scroll the screen around and zoom in on different things as needed.
Oh.
Yeah.
Sure. Let's do that. Okay, so this is the menu I was shown earlier. This is the sky chart setup window that we use to activate and deactivate some of the functions. And what I was talking about earlier is this Deep Sky right here. And what it is, it's all the catalogs that you can activate and deactivate inside Prism. And what I've activated earlier was the Bright Nebulae. Sorry, this is this is interesting here. Give me just a second. I will get this better. There we go. There we go. So these should be visible to you. And these are the options that we can activate and deactivate. So now one of the things that we can do as well is say that you have a really big field of view, a really small field of view. And what you can do with that is in Prism, it's very easy to sort all these objects. Let's do that real quick. We're going to go to, this is where. So we have sorting options. In Prism, you can sort all these targets using the magnitude. I was trying to limit it here between -5 magnitude and 18 magnitude. So if you're limited by your skies with the aperture of your scope, there are limited magnitude to what you can actually resolve. And some skies are so bright you can even resolve 16 magnitude. So in that case, you can limit this to such a thing. Or you have such a wide field of view that resolving small targets as small as 5 arc minutes are a problem. And in that case, we can sort them by size. This is 5 arc minutes to 500 arc minutes here. And let's press that and see. And when we activate when we deactivate these two guys, you will see a lot more options are visible here for sorting options. So I'm going to reactivate them to see the difference, and we're going to stop them at 16 magnitude. So basically all these are visible up to 16 magnitude, and we'll go to size, and we'll limit them at 10 arc minutes of 500 arc minutes. And basically all these targets you see they fit the criteria. Any questions so far?
Hamza, anytime you bring up one of your drop-down menus, if you don't zoom in, we really can't read it on YouTube.
I understand. So these are the options I just activated. One of them, I limited the whole thing by 16 from -5, which is very bright, to 16 magnitude. And I raised the minimum size of any object in the sky chart to 10, which means anything smaller than 10 arc minutes will not be displayed, and anything over 500 arc minutes will not be displayed either. So here we go. We're going to apply that, and this is the result of that. So I'm going to bring down the sky chart so you can see what we're looking at here. So aside from that, are there any specific questions about what we did so far?
There's a couple of questions on YouTube. Let's see, where were they at? Somebody asked if, and it was answered, if you can create a horizon, like, if you have a specific something in the way at 45 degrees azimuth that's 20 degrees high, can you create your own artificial horizon in the program? Absolutely,
that's a very good question. So let's go back in the settings, and naturally you can do that. So let's go back to, so here in the general settings, and let me zoom in. You have a whole horizon here to set it up. So what it is, it's just a simple text file that has the azimuth plus the altitude. Say you take a text file and you say, this is the horizon, and you go 0 azimuth space 10 degrees, 10 azimuth space 40 degrees, and you do that all around. And all you got to do is load it when press this define, and they will draw a profile all around for you, no matter how it is. So it'll draw that for you. And the more points you add, the smoother it gets. So if you put just 4 points in there, it's going to be a little bit edgy. That's a very good question.
Awesome. And sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Molly.
Another question is, can you rotate the field of view so that you can figure out how you want to frame it?
Yeah, you can. And I'm going to go back into here. And this is when you go to CCD and telescope tabs here, you can rotate them at any angle you wish. This here, if you have a derotator or a rotator, is directly attached to it. So if the rotator is spun to 50 degrees, the sky chart will also reflect that.
Awesome. I think that's about it so far. At least I'm seeing on. Oh, and somebody else asked, does Prism let you control your gear? Although I imagine you're probably going to get to that part.
Yeah, that's that's my very next point.
Okay, cool.
Absolutely.
And speaking for Rumble Talk, congratulations to Edmund Schoen, who spent his weekend, I guess, with Warren and Ron, Warren Keller, Ron Brecher, and he's got a lot of good things to say about the conference that those guys put on. He learned a lot, but most importantly to him, he won a QHY camera. But there is no other talk over in Rumble Talk for specific questions. Congratulations, Edmund, and back to you, Hamza.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. So for this one, I'm connected to my my laptop, and this is just there's no equipment connected to Prism right now. So what would one do is to connect their equipment. As you can see these icons up here, and are these visible to you guys? You can see the camera up here, the second camera.
We can see that there are icons and maybe figure out what they are. It's
Sure.
always nice if we can get a little bit bigger sometimes.
Yes, absolutely. I can do that right now. So up here, you can see the cameras. I'm sure this is close enough, and I hope it's close enough. So on the top, you will see camera number 1 and the guider, camera number 2, which is the third camera, and this is here is a video camera. This video camera, I would like to note that any direct show cameras, such as the QHYs, as a matter of fact, and ZWOs have a direct show driver. These guys can be controlled through video or high speed frame rate. So let's go into the settings here and set these up. I'm going to zoom out a little bit here, and I hope to get that's potentially too far. Sorry. Here we go. So we're going to go here. So Prism allows you to connect a lot of things. Number 1, you can connect one mount right here. So for the mount, it is going to be just the main mount that you can add in here, and you can of course control anything with an ASCOM driver. Focusers, you can control two focusers, so one for the main camera, one for the secondary camera. Or if you have a piggyback scope, you can have its own focuser. You can do that as well. 2 filter wheels, and some of them can be connected directly through a DLL, so this direct support like Apogee, FLI, SBIG, or you can use the ASCOM driver, no problem. You can use your dome. You can connect your dome as well. Your GPS. The place, this is what we set up earlier, so this is going to be pulled in automatically. Weather station, a cloud sensor such as the Boltwood cloud sensor, AAG Cloud Watcher, or if you have a shellac, or you can use an ASCOM interface as well. This you can do no problem. Field rotator or derotator, the Optec Pixel is supported directly, 2-inch or 3-inch, or you can use ASCOM as usual with anything else that has a good driver. One thing that Prism does that's really good is it can control some switches, power switches, such as the digital logger ASCOM switch. And what it is, it's really handy when you do automation. It can actually turn on and turn off your power through the automation as well. This is our latest addition here, is you can, if you have the Optec Perseus, which we carry, you can have a port selector. And excuse the French, because this is something we're just working on. So basically, you can have an actual rotator for instrumentation in the back. You can have one camera for deep sky imaging, and you can have a ZWO on one side, and you can have a spectrograph on the other side, and you can have an eyepiece on the fourth one. And Prism can control these and rotate them for you with a single click. As far as cameras, you can have let's look at the menu for the cameras here. So this is easy as well. So we can let's put this here so you can see how to do this. You can set up a telescope name, you can set up your name. So these comes out in the headers, your focal length, your diameter, the location, and you can plate solve an image. If you're not sure, you can plate solve an image and pull the data in. You can, Prism can actually do the rotations for your image automatically if you want the images to match the sky chart, which is north, east to the left. We can rotate that automatically for you. So a lot of the cameras are supported here, namely through ASCOM, but some of them are directly can be connected directly to Prism, such as FLI app, GSPEG, and each one of these will have a contextual menu at the bottom, and it's different for each one of those. So we cover a huge range of hardware choices. You can set up your filters here, your spectra as well, if you wish. You can add some permanent comments that you can always inject into the headers. You can tell Prism what the conversion factor of the camera is in electrons per ADU, if you know that, and then you can also force the where the center pixel is for plate solving is located. And the majority of the time, it's in the middle. So, any questions about this so far?
Yes, there was a question about the use of the Moonlight Focuser, the Nightcrawler, which has a rotator in it as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We use that with an FSQ 106, and it works extremely well. So yes, you can. You can support both. For an Alt-Az application, you can use it as a derotator that's always on, or you can use them as focuser and rotator as well, and it works extremely well.
There's another question here. Let me see. I have an old DSi-2 by Mead. Do you have drivers for that?
I do believe that it was deprecated, but it's something we can help with, and I do believe there is support for it.
That's all we have for now.
Okay, so we're going to continue. So how to connect the equipment? Well, just press on the icons up here. I'm going to zoom this again, and all you do is zoom your icons. I'm using the simulators, so you can use camera number 1 here and the telescope. So these are connected through simulators. So what we can see here, and at the bottom is the camera main screen. So the usual, you have the start and abort, the exposure length. So we have a main CCD and a guide CCD for this camera, but since it's a simulator and we said it's embedded. An SCL, for example, 11,000 has an embedded guide chip, and this is exactly how it's going to show up. So it's going to be the main CCD and the guide CCD. And you can do manual sequences. You can do windowing with these cameras. You can set up the temperature as you wish. You can basically set up a cooling ladder for your camera. So at the beginning of the evening, you can just click one button and it'll go gradually down to whatever temperature you wish. And the warm up is the same. So it starts from the coolest point you're at and starts climbing. Options, we have multiple options. Flipping your X and Y axes, 90-degree rotations. You can even have special masks if you wish. Guiding, we have guiding, adaptive optics calibration, and we handle that for guiding as well. This is as far as the camera goes. Now, for the rest of it, we put the majority of the information here in this main window, and this covers the majority of the advanced options, such as the Alt-Az information about where your system is, about the sun and moon elevations and where they're at. Your cloud sensor data will come up here as well. If you have, say, an AAG, for example, from Lunatico, it will all come up here. If you have just a safety switch, observing conditions here will show up as safe or unsafe. And you can have dome information as well as point-in models if you have them enabled here. So this is basically how you connect your equipment. And something to note here, the advanced version of Prism is capable of taking into account 2 CCD cameras, 2 focusers, 2 filter wheels on one mount. And this can be done as a manual sequence. So somebody could have, say, a 16-inch at the bottom shooting luminance for high resolution detail and a wide refractor on the top shooting RGB data. And this can be done at the same time. And it does handle dithering between both of them. On the path we're working on, this will be automated at some point in the future to where you can set up automatic observation or automation with both systems shooting and interacting with each other. So any questions so far?
This is probably a little bit in advance of what you're going to prepare, but if you do have two systems shooting, how are you going to handle guiding?
So one of the systems is going to be a master, one of them is going to be a slave, and this is going to be for plate solving and so on. You can even have a guider at the same time for both systems. So you can have the narrow field, the wide field, and a guider, as well as a guider.
But when the guider says you're going to move, and the other one is not anticipating that, you're going to have streaking stars.
Not with the way we're going to do it. It has. We are developing a good way to synchronize both telescopes so that they operate the same way. So one could end up waiting on the other. This is something we're working on right now. We're excited to be working on so we can push it in the future. Any more questions?
Tolga, can you mute yourself? You left your mic on.
So now that we discussed equipment, now I would like to talk to you about a couple more things. So we set up the sky chart, our field of views, our locations. We selected our hardware, we connected our hardware, and now we are ready to take, say, an image. And that's very simply by pressing this button over here, Start. And this is a sample image that I did get. And you load it in the simulator. So imagine that this is your first image and came out, and this is a 30-minute sample image, so it's a stocked image. But one of the things that we have in Prism that allows you to see the quality of your night is seeing measurement. So I'm going to open. I'm going to lower this, and I'm going to open. This is a 5-minute exposure. So all you need to do is right-click on the image, and you can do stellar sharpness computation. This will show you your seeing. And this is for any image coming out of your camera. So we want to do a 512 by 512 central area or a quick measurement.
Hamza, anytime you bring up a menu like that, you're going to have to zoom in for everyone to see it.
Sure. So you can right-click on the image and stellar sharpness computation 512 by 512 central area right here. And Prism will do the computations and it'll come up with this. This is the sharpness of a 512 by 512 square. So the number of stars it found was 421, and he calculated the seeing to be 5.42 arcsecond. This could be due to a bad focus. This could be due to high passing clouds. And this is what it's telling you. So if you're like me and seeing is almost 6 arcseconds, I typically go do something else. Out of all these measurements as well, we give you the median value of all these stars. And what this does is it basically shows you how round your stars are. And the closer you are to 0 or the lower this number is, the sharper the stars are. And at 11%, it's barely perceivable in the image. We know some professionals that will stack images up to 20% elongation for their stars. So that's scene measurement. So when we go to shoot a target, we go back to the sky chart and we choose a target. Say we're going to look around and we like some of these galaxies that we see on here. I'm going to zoom on them right now, and so you can see them a lot better. So these are the galaxies that I just zoomed on here. So we're going to center on them. 1 second, please. So these are the galaxies I just saw, and I thought they would make good candidates. So we hover on them, and it'll tell us that they're NGC 6431 and NGC 6456. The magnitudes are 10.7 and 9, and these look like really good candidates for what we're trying to do here and trying to image them. So I'm going to go back to the menu, and I will set up my equipment. It's set up correctly. 17700, it's set up correctly. That's good. And we are going to center on them, and I'm going to right click because this is a simulator, and hopefully it behaves. So this window here will show you that, hey, it was slewing right there. So now we're going to see that, hey, our telescope is here, which is these yellow indicators right in the middle. This small rectangle is our field of view from the narrow field telescope, and the big one is our refractor with the really wide field of view. So what we'll do here is I'll show you some information about these galaxies, and all we do is double click on them. This contextual menu opens up. So this menu changes with the target. If you have a star, an exoplanet, an LBN object, this menu changes. We'll show you the most common information, such as a name, the RA index, and J2000, the apparent to date RA index, what type it is, the distance from the moon, and some information about when it rises, when it transits, and when it sets. And these are in universal time on the left side and in local time on the right side. So you can really plan your nights around this way. And more information here about when it's going to reach 45 degrees setting, which is 0.8 hours, at 30 degrees, 2.1 hours, and at 15 degrees at 3.4 hours. The more information down here is about the size, the magnitude, the major axis and the minor axis, because this galaxy is quite elongated from this view, so it's a lot longer on the major axis than it is on the minor axis. And we have a bunch more information at the bottom about it. So this basically could be your imaging night's target. So what happens when you want to image a target right in the middle where it's not really an object? Well, that's easy. You right click on it, and you send the RA index to clipboard. And this way you can go straight to automation, inject the RA index, and Prism will know to put the telescope right in between them at that point and do all your imaging. So any questions so far?
When you're doing that, Hamza, how do you set up your guide star, and just illustrate the change in the rotation angle, would you please?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's say we want to change the angle of the narrow field, which is right now set to 92 degrees right here. So let's go back. We're going to go into the options of the sky chart. We're going to zoom in here a little bit. We're going to go say we are spun at 270 degrees. The sky chart redraws, and 270 degrees, as you can see, is up here, and the guide ship is right at the top, if you can see it, if you can see my mouse. So you can rotate these fields in any direction you want. And like I said, this is manual because the majority of the time, if you have a fixed setup, you're not going to interact with these angles all the time. On the other hand, if you have a rotator, this is taken care of automatically, so you don't have to rotate these fields. If you rotate your rotator angle, the sky chart will match that angle as well.
So can you drag this around to position your field the way you want the orientation and position your guider with a guide star?
Not at this point. Not as of today. As of today, it's more of a manual operation. We're working on a way to do this in a more streamlined way, to where you could have a couple of buttons up here and you can rotate the field and it'll rotate in the sky chart. So this is something we're working on. Does that answer the question?
Yes, you do want to make sure you're going to have a guide star in the guide ship, though.
No, absolutely, absolutely. And if you zoom on it, let's zoom on it here. I mean, there are ways so you can actually see what's in there. So you can absolutely do that. You can move a star into the field of view and then reposition your main scope. Right now it's set up to follow its center on the scope. So let's do that. And right now, for example, if you center here, you can move the star that way. And this is your new centering. Is this visible, the field of view?
Yes, and I've always wanted to have software where I could actually move the star in position. That's cool.
Yeah, it is. And a really good way to cheat this is basically, this is it. I'm glad you asked. This is a trick, right? So when you're planning and you move the star right there, all you need to do is pick this cross right here is the new field of view of your main imager, so that the star falls right there. This is a quick tip. So if the telescope lands right here, the star will be in the field of view of the guider. I hope I explained this the right way. Any more questions?
I think we're good.
Well, so far so good. I'm glad this is going as well as it is. Sure. I see. Good question. Glad you asked. So let's this is a good teaching moment. So let's we're going to go back into this gear right here where the options are. So here we are. So here we can set up where we put the actual guide chip, if you can see it. Is this visible? So basically you can move this here, and let's do that. We're going to disable the second field of view so we can remove some of that stuff on the screen. And here we're going to put, say, 40 millimeters away. And right now, look where it landed. So we moved it out about 25 millimeters. Yeah, so for variable stocks, you can absolutely do that. And we gave you options to do anything you want here. You can even have a circular field of view for your eyepiece if you wish. That's not a problem as well. On the second field of view, you can even offset in RA and DEC. In arc minutes, you can offset it to the side if your telescopes are not really looking at the same point in space. You can absolutely do that as well. So if we activate that and we put 50 arc minutes here and 50 here, that's what it would look like. So you always have the best way to plan by planning your fields of view exactly how you want.
Hamza, can you use plate solving to position the offset guider and your second scope relative to the first?
I don't think so. However, there is a way to do that with, so I'm going to indirectly answer yes. Because when you plate solve an image with Prism, you can embed it in the sky chart. So basically take your image, plate solve it, put it in there, and then you can move the field of view indicator to cover the embedded image, and that's going to give you the actual offset if you needed that offset. Is there a function to do that automatically? No. Not today anyway. So any questions?
I think we're all set for now.
Okay, so what I did yesterday to give you, I have a telescope down in Chile with deepskychile.com. These are great French gentlemen that provide outstanding service, and the skies are amazing. So I shot some.
Is that Alan Murray?
No. Alain
Okay.
is in Atacama. We are down south by La Serena, right next to a town called Ovalle.
Okay.
Beautiful site, and I've never believed that there was a 1 arcsecond scene until I saw it last night. It was.
I just got back from a trip to Chile where I stayed at Alan's place, so I was wondering
Nice.
how many French guys are setting up telescopes in Chile. So
Yeah, there's plenty. Yeah, and this telescope was with Alain actually.
Okay.
It was there, absolutely.
Nice.
So I'm going to show you some actual real real life usage. So we're gonna do let's try and do manual focus. So is this visible?
Yes.
Okay, so this is manual focus in Prism. So basically, you can just use a regular star, and you can focus on it by hand. You can go to observatory, focus, manual focus, and choose a star. And then Prism would ask, do you want to do 5 seconds? And you want to do a star or any object in the screen, and you can focus on a star or any object, such as a moon crater. You can focus on Jupiter, you can focus on a sunspot, and so on. So for this time, we're going to choose a star. So Prism will give you a window, and it shows you at the top, we're doing bending 2x2 with an SPIG STL 11000. This is especially handy when you want to focus something manually for whatever reason. So we're going to drop the exposure down here to 2 seconds and watch this watch the statistic change as we move the telescope. The focuser is at the bottom here. It's an Optec TCF, temperature compensating focuser, the outstanding focuser of really high value. And we're focusing with the luminance filter. So as the star is imaged in that subframe, we have actual statistics displayed in front of us. This is especially handy if somebody wants to do their filter offsets. This is a really good way to do it.
I'm sorry, Hamza, are you controlling the focuser manually, or are you going through a sequence?
No, this is manual. This is completely manual.
So where are you changing the position of the focuser?
We are down here. You see my mouse?
Yes.
This is the window. You see it says focuser number 1, Optec TCFS?
Right.
These are the arrows, and I'm moving them 0.1 step. I'm sorry, the steps are 0.1 millimeter down here. So I'm moving them by hand, left and right. So one is in and one is out. And on the top here, you have the absolute position in millimeters, and you have the encoder steps, which is at 3,563 steps right now.
And next, you're going to show us the automatic focusing.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. So when you stop this, I'm going to show you something. The pixel scale of this scope is 1.05 arcsecond per pixel, and this star centroid reached 1 pixel. So the seeing was about 1 arcsecond, which is absolutely amazing. These graphs up here show you graphically the quality of the focus as you were moving it from the major axis, the minor axis, and the flux of the star right here. And if you go to the advanced tab, you can have a lot more statistics for very advanced users that require that level of statistics, including the measurement of the flux of the star. So when we stop the manual focus, it will ask us, hey, do you want to display the graphs? And if you say yes, here's what it gives you. These are all the statistics for the star as it was moving through focus. So on the top right, it will be the star small, full width half maximum measurement. And then you have the bottom here is the HDF and how it moved through time. This here is the Y position as it moved in the image, and this is on top is the X position as it moved in the image. So I'm going to ask questions after each of these videos. Are there any questions? I'm sorry, I'm going to ask if there are questions about these. Well, so far so good. Moving on. So with right now we are doing automatic focus. Sure. Thank you. So this is the automatic focus. So we're going to take an image. So I'm taking a 5-second image at binning 1 by 1. What I did is I did the windowing. So this is a smaller window. That's the image that's downloaded. So what we'll do here, we'll go to observatory, focusing actions, and automatic focusing. Right now, Prism is going to ask us through those crosshairs, what do you want to focus on? And we picked that star. Then it asks, do you want to use 5-second exposures for SBIG STL 11000 with the optic focuser? We're going to say, yes, we want to. The reason why this is asked is because if you have 2 cameras, 2 filter wheels, and 2 focusers, perhaps you want it to focus with the second system, and that's why that's asked. So this is the window for automatic focus. Here we're going to tell it where the starting position is in millimeters, where the middle, we think the middle is about 8 millimeters, and when the bottom of the focuser or the other end, the ending point is. So 7.4, the center is 8, and the back end of it is 8.5 millimeters. And we want to use focuser steps of 0.092 millimeters or 92 microns. And this way we're going to use 13 iterations to find our focus. Prism pulls the rest of the information from the headers we said earlier. The focal length is 1700 mil, the diameter is 370, and the pixel size is 9. And when you press optimum step, it'll actually calculate this for you. It'll only ask you what's the center spot for the best focus as you know it. In this case, is 8. So we're going to change the exposure here to nominal exposure from 5 to 2 to speed up the process. If the star is dim, it will raise it as much as 15 seconds. And if it saturates, it will start decreasing the exposure until it reaches 0.2. I told it the window is 30 for the sub window and an HDF of 8. It will shift the telescope to keep the star centered. And for focusers that need stabilization time, you can include a time in there to let it stabilize, take an exposure, measure it, wait a second, and take another exposure. And with the output tab, we can save all this, or we can output a graph at the end to show the progression of our focus. Press execute. Since this camera has a shutter, what it'll do is the first exposure it'll take, it'll be a dark, and then it will subtract that dark from the rest of the exposures for the best and cleanest focus possible. So the first one is a dark, as I said. As you can see, it says the shutter remains closed. And that is our star. And it identified it with the yellow square. So I will speed up the process here because it's quite extensive and it's taken 13 iterations. So as we progress, we're going to get lower, smaller, smaller until we get to the smallest size. And here it says the HDF is 1.9 pixels, and it's going to keep going and bigger and bigger and bigger. And that is our V curve for all the points in measured for our focus run. And when we stretch the graph, we'll actually see the progression. Please forgive the lag because the telescope is 10,000 miles away when I was doing this. So basically we got down to almost 2 pixels and back up. So this is the optimum focus point it found. It says 7.849 with an HDF of 2.4 pixels and a fit error of 0.4 pixels. And what it does when it's done, it will actually update the focuser where my mouse is. At the bottom, the reference focus in millimeters gets updated after each successful autofocus run. Something else to note, if you have multiple setups or you have a big telescope that's prone to temperature shifts, you can actually build profiles down here. Focus point profile manager. And what it'll do is actually it allows you to name it. So we're going to give it a name here. So we'll call it STL 11,000. And with the focuser, which is the Optec TCFS. And what it'll do, it'll actually grab all this information from here and inject it in here. So for future use. What I was doing before, I was doing different focus runs and noting the temperature to see the change through the seasons. So I took an image right after that, and I took the centroid of the star to see what the focus did. And here the seeing was 1.42 pixel or 1.55 arc second with an elongation of 7%, which is extremely, extremely good. This is autofocus. Any questions?
So do you accumulate a series of V curves in order to, well, like Focus Max will use the slope, or are you suggesting that for each run you do your unique V curves for that filter? And do you use offsets and just use a single filter for the V curve, or do you do it filter by filter?
We do filter offsets in Prism for now. As you can see at the bottom here, these are the calculated offsets, if you can see my mouse. And is it visible? Can you read them?
No, you're going to have to zoom in to get people to read that.
Okay, so we calculated the offsets on these, and it's we use filter offsets. And what I was saying is, when you do automatic focus by hand, by clicking on observatory focus and so on, the measurements that you saw here, I did myself. You don't have to do these. All you need is a single focus run, and that's it. You're in focus. I wanted to do these as kind of a case study for the shift in focus over the seasons.
You're going to have to zoom in to get people to read this on YouTube.
Sorry, on this one I can't really zoom it quite. Let me see. It's a video, so I recorded it. Sorry about this, really.
Can
going-
you use the magnifier on the video? The magnifier. Oh, you're on your Mac. Okay.
I'm on my Mac, which is kind of a challenge, you see.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Mac has that same capability or not.
It does not, but if I could, 1 second, if I could maybe change the, no, the resolution is already higher. I apologize about this, but I'll answer any questions if somebody would reach out to me after this. Not a problem at all. So what I was saying is that you can build these profiles yourself for different telescopes, different temperatures, and so on. Prism relies on filter offsets. So we calculate them one time and you're done. So can we proceed to the next chapter? So I'm going to go to guider calibration. So again, setting up the sky chart, your location, the field of view, doing connecting your equipment, doing autofocus. The next thing would be guiding. So how do you set up your guider? Well, it's very easy in Prism. You can actually set it up one time, and as long as you don't physically rotate your guider, or you don't make any big hardware changes, basically the vectors are saved and you can only calibrate it one time. So what we do in the sky chart, where this you can see where the white line is that's the declination 0. So we go due south in the northern hemisphere and due north in the southern hemisphere to declination 0. That's where you want to calibrate your guider. So we'll right click on the sky chart and do a slew. And then the telescope will point there. And then this is an STL, like I said earlier, and you head over to the calibration tab. I did this yesterday, and you could do this one time and you're done. So here we can set up the exposure length of the how long do you want the telescope to move to establish the vectors, and we did 10 seconds, and basically we'll tell it, hey, identify the stars for us as you do these images, which is something you'll see next. So it takes the first image as a dark, and the second image will be the light with the subtracted dark. And what it'll do, it'll actually calculate the positions of all the stars in the field and as a reference spot. So what it'll do is it'll take in the initial location of 0 and then moves 10 seconds, takes an image, moves 10 seconds, takes an image in RA, then DEC, then RA, then DEC. And this is how you calibrate your guider. So now the telescope is moving. It took an image, so now it's moving for 10 seconds, and then it's taken a 5-second exposure now. There we go. So you see the stars moved, and it'll keep going for the next 2 axes. So I'm going to speed this up a little bit. It says calibration is completed, and it shows you the parallelogram, which means it took off from that position, went up, left, right, and back down, and this has calibrated successfully. So this is how quickly and easily calibrate your guider. Now we're going to go to what happens when you auto guide. This here is the guiding if you start it by hand. And if you don't start it by hand, you could do this through automation, which is like the name implies, it's automated. So it'll guide all night and dither, no problem at all. So took an image with our guider, and we're going to go to the guider tab, and we're going to start the calibration. Start guiding. I'm sure this is too small to discern, but in here you're going to set up your aggressiveness, your minimum motion. The minimum motion is still in Prism. Okay, if there's a movement less than this amount, do not make a correction. A maximum shift, that Prism will not attempt to correct if it overshoots, and then I'll try to bring it back. You can do auto guiding on a single star centroid, or you can do it globally on the entire image, on all the stars in the image. It uses FFT as well to do guide on the entire image and all the stars in it. This is especially good for if you want to guide on even the moon, on a crater if you wished, or a sunspot. Prism has deck backlash compensation as well, in a way that what it'll do, it'll watch your deck and it will compensate for it. This is not to say that do all the corrections in one direction. No, Prism is capable of seeing which way it's drifting and correct the other way. This is especially good for when you do a meridian flip. So we'll press on until when the guide starts. So I took an exposure and it took a dark, and now it's took an image. There's a star in it at the bottom. It will grab that star, do a new dark, and it will take the initial position of that star and start guiding. And this is conventional guiding that uses a single star centroid to help make your tracking better. When you use an entire image, you have a lot more stars to guide on, and it's a really good way to guide. I've guided for a while, so I'm going to advance this a little bit so you can see what happens later. So as you can see, the graphs are now green, and it's been guiding for about 10 minutes. And this is a direct drive mount, so it tracks extremely well. And with your setups, this is going to look exactly the same, no matter what the telescope is and no matter what the guider is. So I'm pushing forward again. At the bottom of the graph, we even measured the flux of the star. So by watching the graph at the bottom, you could tell that if there are high clouds that came by, or if the flux drops, flux of the measured star drops, you know there are high clouds. It's a really good way to monitor clouds. So this is auto guiding. Any questions so far?
Yes. Does the guider do backlash compensation?
Yeah, there's a way to set it up in there. Yes, if you can measure it in pixels and you know what it is, you can input it in there, and Prism will actually compensate for that.
And you said you could guide on the moon, like on craters, by using the whole image?
By using the whole image, yeah.
Unfortunately, the sun is kind of turbulent. I'm not sure you could guide on a sunspot.
Well, it is available if you want it. people and the stuff they do with software is pretty amazing.
So do you think that your guiding is better than PhD, or?
That is a very subjective question, and unfortunately, not one I can answer.
Or Maxim, I guess, would be the next question.
Our guiding is extremely good and very smart, and it has a lot of smarts built in it. So our guiding is extremely good. So I'd like to move to automation for this portion, and I think this I'll make this the last portion that I'm going to discuss for the session, not to make it extremely long. Is that okay with you guys?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah,
Okay.
we are running a little long now, but
Yeah.
part of that is ours too. So
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to leave the last portion of processing to the next session that we're going to do in September.
okay.
Okay, so we're going to do automation now. So automation in Prism is just that. It'll image the entire night, and it'll actually start in the afternoon with nothing going on. It'll turn on the power and cool down your camera and wait. And it'll run the entire night for you. So that's our system. Like I said yesterday in Chile, and I started by finding a lot of targets, and I wanted to find a lot of galaxies. So what this is an option in the sky chart called find around. What it does is it queries the database and it can find you any object you want. Right now, I'm looking for a bunch of candidates for galaxies. And what I did is I limited the size from 7 arc minutes to 100 arc minutes. And I wanted the catalogs PGC, NGC, and IC. So this is what I typically do for supernova hunting. Right now, I found 19 galaxies around the meridian. So what I did is I loaded them into the object list. And the object list is a good place to keep your targets for any number of reasons. For example, if you have a lot of objects that you image over and over again, you can have them in a list and reuse this list night after night. So all these targets were collected. And what we can do with these now is import them directly into automatic observation with one click. So we go to observatory and down to automatic observation, or Control T, or press the icon all the way to the right. And what we do here is press the button that says Import Object List. And with a single click, we're going to import the targets that we just acquired, which is 19 galaxies. And Prism asks, hey, do you want to pull these in? Yes, we do. So the next screen, it will ask us, hey, with these 19 objects, what do you want to do? We say we want 60-second exposures if we're doing quick survey work. We would like to bin them 2 by 2, take a single image each, and we're going to choose the luminance filter for this operation. Here they are. All the galaxies are named here, the RA and DEC, exposure of 60 seconds, binning of 2, single image each, luminance filter, and no guiding and no focus. And with the automatic observation, you can focus at the very beginning of the night, like we're going to do now. And I did not put focus to yes because I didn't want to autofocus on each one of these galaxies. So the entire list is there. The beauty about the automatic observation, it's a one-time setup and you can reuse it every single night. It makes imaging a true joy, especially with somebody with a permanent observatory. So all we do is press go. I'm going to talk about a little bit about what's going on, but this is, it took a while, about 20, 30 minutes to image 19 galaxies. So what Prism is doing right now, it's going to take an image and it will play it soft to know where it's at in the sky. As a start, I put the sky chart in zenith mode, and those turquoise names you see on there are all the galaxies we found. And it's going to go to each one of them an image. Since I did not force it to image in any given order, it will start with the farthest one west, which is the first one that's going to set first, and then work its way back to the east. But you can force it to use any order you wish if you want it to be in that order. So we're going to press on here. It's going to be, next will be a focus run, which is what it's doing right now. It finds a star, and you can specify the star, the magnitude, where it's at, how far it is from the current position, the centroiding, the subframing, and so on. And you can show it the minimum and maximum movement on the focuser, and it will focus successfully time after time. So that's what it's doing right now. It's focusing. I'm going to move this forward a little bit. And that's our first galaxy right there that you can see in the crosshairs. It's a little bit of a small window because we're doing windowing. So here it is, 60-second shot. We're going to keep moving forward. This is another galaxy. Autofocus, because we're autofocusing every 30 minutes. And if you can see here on the sky chart, we did the meridian flip. And the meridian flip, when you do that, we can also specify to autofocus and plate solve and sync after a meridian flip. So that's what happened there. I'm going to keep moving. That's a galaxy. There it is, that center. Another galaxy, and so on. So as you can see, the automatic observation is really that it's automation that's designed to help you do the most you can with the least amount of effort. And especially if you have a permanent observatory, this is a real joy to use, and there's no going back from this. Night after night, it will image no matter how many targets you have. So with that, I will conclude this this session of Prism. Today we started from setting up the sky chart, the location, field of view, your sorting options to make sure you can only see the targets you can image for your system. We set up the fields of view. We connected our equipment. We calculated scene measurements. That's what we did. And I showed you manual focus, autofocus, and guiding, calibration and auto guiding, as well as automation. On the next session, I will discuss the pre-processing, making master darks, biases and flats, and pre-processing your lights, and I'll show you some more advanced functions that are in Prism and nowhere else.
Okay, thank you, Hamza.
You are very welcome.
Very informative. All the things you've told us about, and you've gotten a few compliments here from a few people, and both on the software and on the comprehensiveness of the presentation. So,
Thank you very much.
it's good in both cases.
Thank you very much. I'm flattered.
And do you remember the date exactly? I don't have that right here. That we're going to be meeting in September. Is it September 6th?
6th or 9th?
You know what? I can look it up here someplace. Let's see. Hamza 9-1.
9/1. There you go.
9-1. Okay.
There you go.
Yeah. So that's cool. We'll be seeing you again. How are we catching up on everybody for the uh, Rumble talk? Looks like it's clear.
Well, we have a couple of questions over on YouTube.
Okay, Eric, go for them.
Regarding support, how can issues be reported, bug reports being reported, and how are they handled, prioritized, and how are responses given?
So we are very responsive. We're closer to our customer than we would like it to stay that way. We have a beautiful website. I have 38 video tutorials to support my customers, just like you saw right now. But actually, in detail, I have made tutorials that are less than 2 minutes because we're all busy. I grab one single function and I explain as much as I can in 2 minutes. We have emails, and I have a blog where I put tutorials, again, written tutorials for people that like those. And we have a forum that we use. We also have some perks for our customers where we provide them with data so they can practice. These are complete data sets from some of the best observatories and best locations we have. And we do prioritize some issues more than others. And it, of course, naturally depends on the severity. Say a Windows update that introduces something that new that causes catastrophic damage. Naturally, that's going to be our highest priority demand. We would like to listen to our customers. On the forum, we even have a spot where, hey, version 11 is going to be coming out. What do you guys want? And we're pulling information in from our customers, enhancements, new ideas, and we're very close to our customers. I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, do you do mosaics?
Absolutely, we do. So I would like, can I show you that real quick?
Do we have time?
It might best be put off till the next session.
Absolutely, let's do that.
Yeah.
Let's do that. So, yes, we do take them. We
Yeah.
Absolutely, and I'm open to a 4th session.
Okay. Have we had there any other questions? We've got a couple of comments from people over on Rumble Talk. Greg particularly points out that the software is very beautiful to look at. It's got great graphics, and he's looking forward to his trial period.
Thank you.
And he's also pointed out that Isaac at High Point loves this software, and he's a good place to go for questions if you have any questions.
Absolutely. Isaac is a good friend of mine, and he's very knowledgeable, and he's extremely helpful.
Okay, so that'll help you out.
Absolutely. Our friends at OPT do the same.
Okay, I think we've got all the questions off the two questioning streams that we can work with here. So, and I think everybody in the room's had a chance to answer their questions. So, it's time to wrap it up here.
Absolutely.
Next week, Richard's going to be here. Richard Wright, famous from all sorts of places. Another a ball of energy as far as telling us about astroimaging and the sky and all this stuff. Richard, incidentally, is going to be the premium presenter at Nightfall this year. I think some of you guys have heard about Nightfall. We had a program about it. It's a imaging star. Well, it's a star party where we take over an RV resort in the middle of the California desert, and we rob all their white lights and we put red lights in, and we have an ice cream party, and we go hunt for scorpions. And this year we've got one of the experts in Indian lore, Michael Miskwich, will be coming to tell us about the local Indian legends of the sky and stuff. So and
Excellent.
I'm getting off on a tangent here. Richard is going to be giving the astroimaging workshop for that night. Yeah, nightfallstarparty.com. Nightfall Star Party. Don't just go Nightfall, because you're gonna have to read this short story about yeah, nightfallstarparty.com. Yeah. Anyway, that's Richard's gonna be here next week. So, and the week after that, we'll have our processing workshop. So be here for that. Now, timeout. I want to put a special shout out for Tolga here. Tolga, thank you. He kept us going. We've been working through this software, and it looks like we pulled it off pretty well tonight. That first part will be edited a little bit, where we were still trying to stream the software right and get the latency right and stuff like that. We'll edit that out for reality to the ears. Somebody asked during the conversation that was going on if our comments are kept with the shows. Comments that are made over on YouTube are kept with the shows. And I did check, and last week's comments are there. I don't know why anything would be different now. So we are still keeping the comments. Yeah, I can. Go ahead. Hmm. Yeah. And we've got to talk about a lot of things. We are going through some transitions, largely faced by the fact that Google is taking away what what we've been relying on for 5 years, what Adam set up and what Adam still works with. Adam regularly works with us on these things, and it was very simple. You just plugged it in and off it went. Well, now one of our chief people in the room, Tolga, has spent his basically the whole show here. He has to sit there and make sure he's monitoring which images are being shown and stuff like that. We need more help with that kind of stuff. We need some people that want to get involved with it. Please contact us. Let yourself be known. We need some people like Molly and like Eric and like Alex and like Tolga. And I can speak for myself. You don't have to be a genius in astroimaging to do this kind of stuff. All you got to do is be willing to help and contribute it a little bit. You got to be willing to make mistakes now and then. I mean, somebody said the other day that we should put together a blooper reel, and my response was, "Hey, everything we do seems to be a blooper reel." All right, so enjoy it, guys. But we need more help. We are looking for volunteers that can help us do this. In a couple of weeks, 3 weeks, whatever August 25th is, I'm going to be at Sequoia at their Night Sky Festival, and I'm not going to be around here. And I'm not sure that we've got the manpower and the woman power to pull this thing off if we aren't starting to get some more help here. So please, we need your help. And and love to have you help us with the technical aspects of it. Obviously, making presentations is good. We appreciate the donations we've been getting lately. We didn't talk about it today at all, but we appreciate that. And subscribe. The more subscribers we get, the more power we get with YouTube to use different aspects of it, different widgets and things like that that help us out. Okay, enough preaching. Thanks for everybody for being here. Thanks, Hamza, for putting it on the show.
Thank you very much.
And good night, everybody. This is it from the Astro Imaging channel. Take it away.
Thank you, and have